So Jacinta, I also want to ask you, you have an unconventional marriage. You've been married for 6 years?
Yes, yep, 6 years.
And you live in two separate places.
Yep.
And you say it's the best thing and it works fantastically.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to talk to you about it is I think we all have a lot of rules around what marriage or relationship should look like, and you know what it takes for them to be successful. And yet the fact is that different things work for different people, and that trying to conform sometimes to what society says is the way it's supposed to be can actually get in the way of us being as happy as we want to be in any area of life, not just in marriage, in our relationships. So share with me, you know, what's made it work for you in your marriage?
Yeah. Well, my husband, I live in the city and I work in the city, and my husband lives in the country and he has a business in the country. And we met, and he's got his place up there and I've got my place down here. And we met, and, you know, it wasn't actually, you know, a conscious decision about who was going to go where or whatever. It just sort of happened that way. And we were married after we went out for about a year, and we were married, and then we just kept going in our respective places. And he, you know, we spend Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights together, and maybe one other night during the week. He does his thing in the country, and he goes out with his friends and does whatever he likes, and I do the same in Melbourne. And then we get together on the weekends and have a fabulous time together, and it works really well. You know, neither of us want to travel up and down every day, and we actually quite like, I think, you know, both respectively like to have a bit of a space to do our own thing. I work long hours, he works long hours, so he runs his house, I run my house. I clock, you know, there's two functioning houses that go on, and he loves to come to the city and spend time down here, and I love to go to the country and spend time up there, and it works perfectly.
That's great.
And, you know, when you think about it, you know, you're still your own individual human being, and you're also part of a partnership, and it works really nicely. And when I talk to people about it, they first of all, they're a little bit shocked, and then they think, well, actually, that's quite a nice way to do it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Look, and I get that the circumstances, that's how it's worked for you. I know obviously my marriage is much more conventional. You know, we do live in the same house, and we get in the same bed together every night unless one of us is travelling. But I know for me, one thing that's been so important in my marriage, and I've been married 20 years now and moved around a ton, and we've had 4 kids and both pursuing careers, is supporting each other in doing the things that inspire us in our own, what makes us feel whole and gives us a sense of meaning. And so, you know, that for me has been, I've had to compromise and move around a little bit to support my husband's career. By the same token, he's had a wife with 4 kids who hasn't always had everything, you know, dinner on the table every night because I'm out doing things besides just running a home. And I think, to me, at the core of a great relationship is giving each other the freedom and the support and championing each other in really pursuing what it is that gives them a sense of meaning and purpose. Yeah. And which for me is also outside the role of mum. So obviously it sounds, you know. Yeah.
I think the big thing in there is the respect for each other. Yeah. And, you know, we're different, but we're the same, and we have the same values underlying underneath it all. But we have respect for each other, and we talk about, you know, he runs his own business. I work in the corporate world. We live in completely different worlds from that respect. But we have a really healthy respect for each other, and we, you know, understand each other. You know, we value what each other does, and most importantly, we enjoy each other's company. We make sure we do, you know, we specifically enjoy each other's company.
Well, there's not much point being with someone if you're not enjoying their company.
But unfortunately there's a lot of people that are. But,
I know, too many.
Yeah, and also I think another really positive thing about not living together all the time is when we are together, we make sure we maximise the time we are together, and we talk. We actually sit down and we go out for breakfast and we talk about what's been going on. Yeah. Because, you know, the communication is one of the most important things in anything you do, really, but particularly in a marriage. So,
and the foundation of all of this is obviously trust.
Absolutely.
I would guess that there'll be women watching this going, yeah, but how do you trust him that during the week he's not in the country, you know, being unfaithful? Yeah. Or, you know, some people might think vice versa. Yeah. And to me, that's obviously just a foundational piece for any partnership to work, that you absolutely trust the other person.
Absolutely, because if you don't trust each other, it'll just eat away at you and destroy everything. Absolutely, I 100% agree with that. And yeah, you can't, you know, like you have to. That's. I think it also goes back to you trusting yourself. And you know, every time you might get a niggling doubt, and yeah, but really you have to trust. You have to trust yourself first, and then you have to trust them. And if something happens and you know there is a concern, you have to be able to communicate, discuss it.
Yep.
And then, you know, so I have absolutely, you know, complete trust in him, and I know he has complete trust in me. And if that changes, well, that's, you know, it'd be a very sad day for both of us in our relationship.
Yeah.
But it's very, very important. If you don't have that trust, that also goes back to your trust in yourself, I think, you know, and I know he, you know, I think we understand each other well enough to know that what's going on is what's going on. But
Yeah, I know over the years I've worked with and met a lot of women who are in relationships where there is distrust. That ultimately, you know, they're hiding things from their husband. It might be how they're spending money. Men who don't trust their wives fully, and women who don't trust their husbands fully, who are following up, checking their text messages, etc. You know, are they having an affair? And sometimes they are. And too often, I think those issues, you know, they don't get addressed and put on the table early enough.
Yeah.
And it builds and builds, and then things fall apart.
Yeah.
So, in my experience, you know, you've got to absolutely, if you're not trusting them, then the whole relationship has got a huge crack in the foundation.
Yeah.
Those things either need to be addressed and sorted out, or maybe you need to be going different paths.
Yeah.
So, what's your experience with women, and as far as sometimes sweeping things under the carpet or tolerating situations where you wouldn't tolerate them?
Yeah. It goes back to a comment I made earlier on, actually. And to me, this isn't a practice run. This is life. This is it. We don't know if we're going to come back to this world. We may, but we won't know who we are and what's going on. You know, so life's too short to not be getting the most out of every moment. So if that's a situation you're in, you know, is that really, how do you feel about that? Are you really enjoying that? Is it really worth it? No matter what your situation, even if you have, you know, have a family, is it worth living a life that's not real and not full and not rewarding and not, you know, and you don't have enough, you don't even respect yourself? Like, is it really worth that? I would say not, you know. The alternative out there is, it might be hard to step out of that nice place you're living in and that nice environment you're in, supposedly, but reality is
at what cost?
At what cost?
Yeah.
And you know, and to me, you know, people are more important than paper, and that's what life's all about. And you know, we're all on a journey. We're all living our life, and we all want to leave a really positive legacy for this world in some ways. And I'm certainly on a mission to do that with several things I'm doing. But I really question, if that's the way you're living your life, is it really worth it?
Yeah. Where are you selling out on yourself in the most fundamental, level?
Yeah. What's it worth?
Yeah, just living a lie, I think.
Yeah.
And I think because women sometimes don't trust themselves enough, they underestimate how capable they are.
Yeah.
They stay in situations that may leave them just starved for love, or where they're unhappy, deeply sometimes unhappy, but they're afraid of leaving it because they're afraid of what the big unknown might be, because then they'll be on their own and they'll have to won't have maybe the financial security, and things will be different. And I think change is always hard, and I see a lot of women so afraid of that they stay with where they are even though they're deeply unhappy. And to me, that's at the core of being really courageous, is just going, you know what, I cannot live this life. I've got to just put myself out there and dare to fail. But my experience is that when women do, they say to themselves, I wished I'd done it years ago.
Absolutely. And courage, you've got to be courageous about it. And it is hard, it's not easy, and it might be uncomfortable. But remember, you know, and particularly, I would say, particularly women who have a family, you know, you're a role model for your children as well. And do you want your children to come and, you know, live their life like that? Would you be happy with that? You know, do you want that for your daughter, for your son? I would say not. So yeah, it is the fear of the unknown, and losing those secure things that you have around you is pretty scary. But reality is, the reward in the long term is enormous. So why live a life of not being where you really want to be when you can actually push through some bit of hard time and make it what you want?
Yeah. Well, look, Jacinta, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your experiences, your insights. They're really, really invaluable. I found it really, really enjoyable talking to you, and I'm hoping that the women who are watching this video will also have garnered something that they can apply in their own lives, because the fact is, we all have doubt, as you say. We all have moments of going, this is uncomfortable. I'm afraid of the unknown. But it's really about parking them and saying, I'm going to plow through anyway. I'm going to show up. I'm going to turn up. I'm going to just go over and introduce myself to that person, whether it's in work, whether it's in any area of life. So thank you for being a role model for women everywhere on what it is to be truly courageous.
My pleasure. Thank you.